Welcome back to Huddle Up. After a 1-week break, we are back in studio. We have a very, very special guest joining us later today. Luca, what's going on, man?
Not much, yeah. 1-week break because me and Eric were on Touchdown Atlantic. Not sure if you saw the YouTube video. We'll link it in the description. But yeah, we had some fun, some player prop celebrations. It was a good time. Next time you got to be out there.
I know. Couldn't make it this year. Yeah, had a wedding. But no, it was. It looked like you guys had a lot of fun. The game was. I mean, the Argos.
Smashed them.
The Argos did what they've been doing all year, and that's just rolling over everyone in their way. But yeah, I would have loved to get out to the East Coast. Looks very nice out there, and it's always, I mean, I've had my experience being on the Argos sideline twice now, one time earlier this year against BC, and it's always a ton of fun. So yeah, it looked like you guys had a good time, and check out the YouTube video if you haven't.
Yeah, it was a great time. I mean, honestly, the East Coast, like, I know they're pushing for a football team, and that's why these games are so important as part of the process to get the East Coast a football team, to show how much interest there is out there, and they sold it out. It's a unique environment too, because it's like played at a university stadium, so the St. Mary's University, that's where they played it, and it's obviously not meant to be like a full production. Like you have to physically like build the commentator booth on top of like where their press box is, and build stands to hold 11,000 people, and then there's like there's apartments kind of out of the back of the end zone, and there's a camera on top of it, like for the end zone camera.
I think I saw that.
Yeah, and then there's one on top of the building too that looked like the sky cam, that like the all 24, but even cooler. So I just found that really interesting, of like not only just how passionate the fans are, I think that's a given, and they should definitely explore expanding, make it an even 10 teams, but just the production behind it probably goes unnoticed on TV, but stands out when you're there.
Yeah, we got to get our team out east there, and I mean, it would get us to an even 10 teams, like you said, and it would make the playoff format a little easier too, which we are going to talk about in the show later today.
And also, best seafood ever.
I was going to ask you, what was the go-to?
So me and Eric, we were there last year too.
I remember for Digital Sports Center, I had to make something with Eric with lobster in his hands, because he was just going to town while he was there.
Oh my God. And we both went to town this time. We had an extra night and day this time, which was great. But last time we were there, we went to this place called the Bicycle Thief. And if anyone's out in Halifax, go to the Bicycle Thief. It's the best meal I've ever had. Last year when we went, me and Eric had a nice little date, split a bottle of wine. This year we did the same thing. Had an espresso to end the night. We had mussels. We had tuna tartare or something. I don't know what he had. And then lobster. He had a full lobster, like with some spaghetti. I had the beef short rib. It was just go there. It's amazing. So,
I mean, you said, you got to get me out there. I don't even like seafood, so I would not fit in there at all.
Like, you wouldn't even be willing to try it?
I think I'd try maybe lobster. I've tried mussels before.
You don't like them?
It's not that I don't like them. I just don't. I don't necessarily see the hype. I don't taste them and be like, wow, this is so flavorful. It's so good. And it just kind of like irks me a little bit.
Yeah.
That these like
oysters are not your thing. Yeah. Like, you don't like
creeps me out a little bit.
That's
so fair. I don't know if I'd survive out east or even out west in a place like BC, but we'll see. I gotta do my CFL Canada tour and just hit every stadium and try all the food and just rank every place to visit and everything. That could be a cool video that we do on Huddle Up one day. But anyways, big show we have today. We have a guest from a new team, a team that we haven't had so far, and that's the Hamilton Tiger Cats, who have had a bit of an up and down season, and I think a big part of that is they've had some tough luck with injuries, specifically with Levi Mitchell. He's come in and got hurt and come back and gotten hurt right again. So that's been unfortunate, but we're lucky to have their running back, James Butler, join us today, who has been a bright spot on this team. He's a guy who does it all. He can run down the trenches and he can catch out of the backfield. So without further ado, let's welcome into the huddle running back from the Hamilton Tiger Cats, James Butler. James, what's going on?
Thank you. It's going great. Appreciate you having me on.
Anytime.
Yeah. How's the season been so far for you?
It's been cool, you know what I'm saying, ups and downs. You know what I'm saying, came away with the win, tough one last week. So, you know what I'm saying, it's always good going to a week with a win.
Absolutely. And this week is a huge game, especially when you look at the East standings. You've got Montreal and Ottawa also at 3 wins, and you're facing Montreal. So obviously want to get a leg up on them behind Toronto in the division. Just what's the vibe going into the week? How do you approach these kind of big divisional games knowing that, especially with how close the standings are, it just means that much more?
Yeah, 100%. You know what I'm saying? It's like every division game is a big game. You know what I'm saying? That's kind of, what is that, like a 4-point swing? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
2 points, they lose 2 points. So this game's obviously really big. Montreal's been playing very well. You know what I'm saying? We've already seen them here once before, so we're excited.
Let's talk about you a little bit and your career so far in the CFL. You had a pretty electric start. Talk to me about that whole experience. Coming into the Canadian Football League. Maybe were there things you didn't know about that? How was the sort of entry for you?
I've had a up and down experience like in Canada, because I don't think a lot of people don't notice, but in 2019 I had a training camp in SAS, and I didn't make the team. It was actually, they had just signed Willie P. They had Marcus Sigmund, so they had some great vet backs, and it was me and Morrow came in the same year. You know what I'm saying? He was actually, Morrow was my roommate. You know what I'm saying? So we was both competing for like that practice roster spot, and I didn't make the team. Obviously Morrow made more plays than me. You know what I'm saying? And I left that training camp and I hated Canada. I was not into it. I was just like, this league's not for me. Like, it's a passing league. Like, you know what I'm saying? I just, I was just so young and just dumb. But then obviously, luckily I got another opportunity with BC to kind of rejuvenate my CFL career. But just going back to that game last year where it was a 4 tugs in one game, you know what I'm saying? No one ever scripts that, you know what I'm saying? We don't go into the game where it's just like, 4 touchdowns, 1 game, or one half. But it was just, you know what I'm saying? It was just like kind of the game just came to me. It was flowing very well, you know what I'm saying? And like that was not only my coming out party, that was that whole team's coming out party, you know what I'm saying? We had a bunch of weapons on that team. So it was fun.
Do you remember the last time, like before that game, that you had 4 touchdowns in a game?
When I was like 12 years old, you know what I'm saying? Like playing against my neighbor's kids back like in the backyard, you know what I'm saying? Never like in a real game, but
that's awesome.
Yeah, it was a cool experience.
You mentioned the CFL is a passing league, and just looking at your stats this year, like you basically matched your production on the ground in the receiving game as well. Is that something you've always kind of had in your game, or is that something you kind of developed as you got up here and realized that, like, wow, running backs are just such a weapon in both aspects of the game?
Yeah. I would say, like, I've always prided myself on trying to do everything exceptionally well. You know what I'm saying? I know, like, being a back, being one-dimensional is, like, it's tough. You know what I'm saying? For me, I grew up, I was always the more you can do. You know what I'm saying? Like when I grew up, I hated blocking. I hated it, like with a passion. Like I did not want to block. Just give me the ball, let me run. But my buddy, my best friend, he was my fullback, and his dad was a coach. And you know what I'm saying? Obviously, fullbacks block, but then there'll be some places where I'll be blocking, and obviously I wasn't really trying. And he would always harp on me like, "Hey, if you want to like make it to the next level, you have to be able to block." And then catching is always something that's become pretty natural, but I felt like a lot of people didn't think I could catch because I'm kind of like a little bigger, stockier back, so they never really thought I could catch the ball. But like whenever I get the opportunities, like I always try to make the most of it. Because in the offseason, I train like a receiver, actually, because I feel like running back drills are so boring to me. Like just like doing like running, cutting drills, like it's so boring in the offseason. So I like to like run routes to catch balls, you know what I'm saying, do the cool catches. So I feel like that's really what has helped me just like develop is in the offseason train like a receiver.
Do you have a favorite route to run, maybe in your route tree that you just like?
A favorite route?
Called,
I mean, my go-to route, you know what I'm saying, is running back is a wide, super boring, and a flat route. But I like the spicy routes when they give me and I can like face a guy up and make a move. But so that's probably my favorite route, running that choice route. I don't actually get to run it in a game, usually during the off season. But that's probably my favorite route.
It's a good one. I love that. It's so unique to hear a running back train like a receiver in the offseason, but it makes sense to, especially in the CFL, when you're put in kind of a lot of those situations. We want to move on to a few social segments that we've got for you. And I heard in an interview, I think it was on YouTube that I saw it, but you were just reminiscing of who you've already played with in your CFL career at quarterback. You've played with Bo, you've played with Nathan Rourke and Mike Reilly, which is like just crazy that you've played with all three of them. So
keep getting better.
It's nuts, right? So we have a few superlatives for those quarterbacks. So if we were to say, like, out of those three, who's like the biggest prankster of those three quarterbacks? Who would you say?
Biggest prankster? For sure, Bo. 100% Bo.
Yeah.
Easily Bo. Bo, yeah.
I can see that.
Yeah. Has he gotten you with a prank, or did he just?
He hasn't got me with a prank, but just like Bo's just super goofy, man. Like, and he's just like, it's kind of like, he's just that like fun loving, you know what I'm saying? Like just very Texas, and you know what I'm saying? Like it's just, I don't know. He's just Bo's very Texas.
I like that. Which
of those three is the most serious on game day?
What? Big Michael Reilly, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I feel like playing with Mike Reilly was like, to me, I've never obviously played with this person before. To me, it was like playing with like Aaron Rodgers. You know what I'm saying? Just like somebody just like, I don't want to let this guy down. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's going to put me in the best position possible, but I don't want to let this guy. I remember when I first started like practicing with him, I didn't say a word. Like, I was scared. You know what I'm saying? I was just like, make sure I'm in the right place. Like, just be seen and not heard.
It's funny you mentioned Rodgers too, because I'm pretty sure he's like really good friends with Aaron Rodgers as well. Like
that makes sense. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
They've got a relationship. I think it goes back to college or something, but there's all kinds of videos out there of like them two wishing each other luck and things like that. So it makes sense. Wow. This one might be him too. Best on and off field style. He's got a lot of cool hats. So I don't know.
Yeah. Mike was styling, profiling. I would definitely say, and I was surprised too, because I'm like, I didn't know you had that in your bag, but yeah. So I would definitely say Mike Reilly was definitely the best dressed too, for sure.
That's a good one.
Out of the three, who's the best at another sport?
That's at another sport? I mean, if you ask any of the three, Bo would probably say him. I've never seen any of them actually play any other sports, but I guess I would probably. I don't know. Nate, kid Canada, man, is kind of athletic, man. You know what I'm saying? You might put a Nate on a basketball field or baseball field, you might be able to make something happen. So I think it's between Bo and Nate for sure.
And last one we'll go with just something you've learned from playing with all three of these guys, because they're all so unique and so different in their journeys and just kind of the landscape of where they are in the league and the legacy they left behind.
For sure. I would say for one, Mike Reilly, playing with Michael was just like the ultimate warrior. You know what I'm saying? Like, he would get hit, rocked, and get up, do it again, hit, and go rush for a 13-yard game after just, you know what I'm saying, taking a hit, and just always getting up, super tough. Like, I saw the injury he was dealing with, you know, that season he was having, but just super tough warrior. And then Nate, just the ultimate competitor, man. The kid you know what I'm saying, ultimate competitor. Nate's the only person I know, we'll be pregame, you know what I'm saying, everybody's in their zone. Nate's in his locker room reading Obama's biography book. Bro, you about to go play a game in 5 minutes, bro. Put the book down. You know what I'm saying? But he's just so prepared, and so he's already played this game out in his head probably 10, 20 times, you know what I'm saying? First guy in, last guy out, just super prepared. And then Bo, man, just fun loving, just, you know what I'm saying, let loose and go play.
Mm-hmm.
But I learned that from Bo, you know, in this small time I've had with him, just fun loving, go play, man, go make a play, trying to get the ball in guys' hands to make a play. So that's what I've learned from those three guys. That was a pretty good answer. Pretty good answer.
That was a great answer.
That was some heat. That was some heat.
I love it. Okay, we got two more things for you to bring some heat on.
We talked earlier about your 4-touchdown game, and obviously you've been in the end zone quite a bit here in Canada. You've had some pretty cool touchdown celebrations in your career.
Thank you. Finally.
I want to ask you about these. Yeah, there you go. Can you maybe rank your top 5 touchdown celebrations?
Top 5? Okay.
And they can be in all football too. Like if you had a couple in college, I know you played in the XFL too. But
I'm just go here.
Okay.
I wasn't a celebrator until I got here. I'm not gonna lie. I was woo, boring, get the ball to the rep. Like, nah, I'm having fun now. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
But I can't put them in any order. But,
no order. It's okay.
Yeah. So I'm gonna go with the worm. That was funny. Me and the equipment guy before that drive, I was like, if I get in here, I'm doing the worm. And he told like one of the guys on defense, like, hey, like JB scored, he's doing the worm. It was like, yeah, right. Did the worm. The Rockets kicks, that was good. I got that like the night before the game. I asked my homie, I'm like, bro, what should I do? So the Rockets kick. And then my signature, I don't know why. Sometimes when I don't know anything, I'll just jump up and kick like I'm doing karate. So I do that one. I love that one. Let's see, what else was it? I like the one I did in Toronto, the swimming on the boatman. You know what I'm saying? Serving on the boatman, that was fire. So what's that, 4? And then Ottawa, nobody really saw it. I wish more eyes caught it. But I did. I was breakdancing in the end zone and nobody really caught it. But like my homies knew what I was doing. I was breakdancing. That was a fun one. So those are my 5. But I got some heat coming out more. I gotta get in there, but I got some fire planned.
Ooh, I cannot wait. And watching your highlights, like all of these celebrations, as soon as you said them, I'm like, yep, I remember watching that one. Like that was so amazing. So I'm happy that a lot of those made the appearance in the top 5. Last thing before we let you go, we like to end all our interviews with a segment we call 3 downs for obvious reasons. And today's topic is your 3 favorite TV show or movie running backs. So you can go anywhere you want. The floor is yours.
Me and my buddy was just talking football movie trivia like 3 days ago. It's going to be hard to give me 3, but I can do it. Number 1, obviously, Boobie Miles. Friday Night Lights. That's an easy one. That's a go-to. And then this one might be a sleeper. Longest Yard. Megan.
Yup.
Cold. So fire. And then my last one, man. Hey, hang on to that ball, Petey. Hang on to that ball. You know what I'm saying? And that's my last one. You know what I'm saying? Just because, you know what I'm saying, Petey didn't drop that ball, man. So those are my top 3.
That's an elite
pretty elite list. Love the picks for the running backs. I love the top 5 ranking for the touchdown celebrations. I'll tell you this: next time we have you on, you got to give us top 10 touchdown celebrations. So that's my challenge to you, to keep getting into that end zone, keep doing your thing. We wish you best of luck as you go down the stretch in this playoff battle that your Ticats are in. Thanks for joining us today, James Butler, and hopefully we'll talk to you sometime soon.
Thank y'all, man. Appreciate y'all having me on. So much fun.
James Butler, what a beauty. He's probably going to hit 1,000 scrimmage yards total. I think he's like over 500 right now if my stats counting is correct. Yeah, 355 rushing yards, 216 receiving yards through 7 games played. Like not even at the halfway point. And yeah, he's going to have over 1,000 all-purpose yards for sure. For sure. It's not even close. Hit 1,000 yards rushing last year with the Lions. Yeah. Like he's really good.
I think what's most impressive and maybe insightful, he said a lot of great things. It was cool to hear he trains like a receiver, but I think what was probably most inspiring was to hear that this guy came to Canada after playing in the XFL, playing in the NFL, came to Canada and didn't make a team. Yeah. And was kind of like, screw this is not for me sort of thing. But he was resilient and he ended up bursting onto the scene in a way that very, very, very few people can even imagine of doing with a 4-touchdown game. Like you said, 1,000-yard season, and he's still killing it this year. So shout out to him. Great guy, great personality. And I mean, when you talk to players like that, it's hard not to root for the Ticats down the stretch in a absolute log jam of a CFL playoff battle. You got 3 teams with 3 wins in the East. 2 of them are 3-4. The Alouettes are 3-3. They're all fighting because there's only 6 playoff spots. Yeah. So some of these teams down the stretch, maybe it stays this close, maybe a team sort of falls behind. But I think what we're going to do now is predict what's going to happen going forward because we're about a third and a bit way through of the season. So obviously it starts to get colder. Things are going to get tougher and things are going to change. But I don't know. Let's jump right into it. How do we see this sort of playoff format, shaping out?
It's so tough. So when you're looking at this, Edmonton's out. Obviously.
Yeah, sorry, guys.
We can get rid of them. So we have 8 teams for 6 playoff spots.
Yeah.
BC, Winnipeg, and Toronto are all locks, barring something insane that happens. So those 3 teams, they're in, regardless of what happens. It really is 5 teams for...
3
what do we got? 3 spots.
Yeah.
5 teams for 3 spots, and the crossover can also help because when you're looking at this, the race for the crossover, Calgary is a game back of Saskatchewan in the West for that final playoff spot. And they're also a game back for the crossover spot in the East.
Yeah.
So I really... Oh, this is so tough. This is so tough. I don't believe in Calgary. I think I'm just going to say that. I don't believe in them.
I think there's been some really good moments from Jake Mayer this year. And there's been games where they've put up points and lost. And then there's been games where they are losing because they can't score enough points. They just seem to be a very mixed bag.
Yeah.
They're also 0-3 at home, which is very concerning.
Absolutely concerning.
Especially a place like Calgary. We know that crowd gets really into it. You'd think they'd be... this is no Edmonton Elks 0-4 at home we're talking. This is Calgary Stampeders. The bar is much higher. The expectations were much higher for this roster going into the season. So they've probably been one of the most disappointing teams so far this year.
I will say the other thing working against Calgary too, and if you look at it with Saskatchewan... Calgary's 1-3 against the division right now. So that means they've got way more division games coming. Saskatchewan's already played 6 division games, and they've managed to go 3-3 so far. So they get to face these Eastern teams, the Montreals, the Hamiltons, the Ottawas of the world. And I feel a lot better about Saskatchewan to be that 3rd playoff team in the West. And maybe Calgary can fight for the crossover spot, but I don't feel as good about them doing that.
So the one team I want to talk about is the Red Blacks. Because that's a team that I actually really, really believe in.
Yeah.
And I think of all these teams that are sort of just below 500, maybe a couple games back, I think they're the most likely to take a leap and maybe finish a couple games above 500 when it's all said and done. Because if we want to talk about Dustin Crum, he has just been so electric, dynamic. He's transformed an Ottawa team that really looked lifeless after that Jeremiah Mazzoli injury. That was just... You can't help but feel that was an emotional time for this team in this locker room. And for him to come in and just take the bull by the horns and lead this team to glory in many weeks. I know their last game was a tough last-minute loss, but they're competitive. And they also play some really, really tough defense, which I think is going to help them down the stretch. And if Crum can keep things moving... to me, if there's one team, I'd say out of all these, who are you most confident that they're going to make the playoffs in the end? I think right now it's Ottawa.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you there. And it's just because of what we've seen from Dustin Crum. And even though they lost a close game last week, you want to beat Hamilton without Bo especially, right? You want to... Or he played in that game, right? But he was not 100%. You want to win those divisional games, but they have not been blown out with him at quarterback. The first game that he had to come into as the replacement for Mazzoli was in Hamilton, and he almost led them back. He got stopped just short of the goal line on what would have been a game-winning touchdown run. He is just playing lights out. So I agree. Out of the quarter... And the CFL is all about quarterbacks, right? I like Cody Fajardo. I don't know if I like enough of what I've seen from him so far, but I would say if we're talking about that other Eastern spot, I think your front runners for those final spots, Saskatchewan, Ottawa, and then Montreal, just because of Fajardo.
And their defense has also been playing very, very well. And they've shown that they can force a lot of turnovers, which can completely sway a game. I think the 2 teams that we're sort of worried about right now are Hamilton and Calgary. And I think with Hamilton, it's definitely just because of the complete uncertainty at the quarterback position. Bo's going back on the 6-game injured list, and he just came off. It is so hard to stay in contention when you're losing your quarterback for 12 games of the season.
Yeah, so they're going with Taylor Powell or someone else that we're not thinking of right now. When you're getting into that territory for quarterbacks, it's a hope and a prayer that you catch lightning in a bottle like Dustin Crum,
Yeah.
because no one expected this in Ottawa. Like he's third, fourth on the depth chart, and just trying to come in and show that he can play in the league. Like I mean, to come in that position, you're kind of playing free in a sense, but also like relevancy standpoint, Ottawa has just dealt with so many quarterbacks in the past because of Mazzoli's injury and just things not working out. So they're looking for a guy in a stabilizing force. So that must put a little bit of pressure on him. But now whoever's playing quarterback for Hamilton, whether Schultz can get back at some point or whatever, you're in the thick of a playoff race. So you're keeping this team afloat. You have to try and keep this team afloat. And I feel like that's the same thing in Saskatchewan with Mason Fine, where you probably play a little tighter because of that, and knowing that every game matters at this point. Like, teams are right behind you. You're not in a position where, okay, if you lose a couple, like, it's okay.
Yeah, I think in both scenarios, Hamilton and Saskatchewan, these teams are going to make a run. They're going to need the two Huddle Up legends, Mario Alford and James Butler, to come up with big, game-swaying home run plays down the stretch to really lead their teams to a victory. And I mean, those guys have shown us that they're capable of doing that.
Absolutely.
And we'll see if the Huddle Up effect, as we've talked about in recent weeks, can just continue on. But if we're going to lock in our final predictions, I think both of us are in agreement that in the West, you have BC, Winnipeg, and I guess Saskatchewan.
Yeah. And then in the East, we've got obviously Toronto, and we feel good about Ottawa and Montreal coming out.
So
this week 9 is just going to settle a lot of stuff too. Like, every game is significant, because if Calgary falls to 2-6, they face the Argos. Calgary falls to 2-6, and Saskatchewan can beat Ottawa and move another game ahead of them. Like, huge. And then BC and Winnipeg battling for first in the West, which is amazing. And then we talked about Montreal, Hamilton, what's at stake. So week 9 in the CFL, man. And then next week, see if Edmonton can win. Every week is just going to be something. And that's amazing. That's what you want, especially down the stretch. Like, you don't want these playoff races just being like, okay, we've got 6 weeks left and we already know who is going to be in the playoffs, let alone the matchups. It's going to be drama for the rest of the season. It's
been a very exciting season, and it's only going to get more exciting. So make sure you're tuning in every week, and make sure you're watching us weekly on Huddle Up. If you made it to the end, thanks for joining us. We will be back. And as always, let us know in the comments, what players do you want us to interview? Which segments do you want us to roll out to them? And we'll see you next week.